You ever have one of those mornings where everything feels so calm that you just know life is about to ruin it? That was Darian Cole's morning, and trust me, the chaos waiting for him was nothing short of cinematic stupidity. But before his entire world cracked open, here's a tiny story that happened just one block away, because trouble loves to announce itself to the wrong people. Mrs. Arlena Graves, the neighborhood's unofficial surveillance camera with hips, was outside watering her precious rose bushes when a white SUV creeped past Darian's driveway. She squinted, adjusted her oversized glasses, and whispered, those Stonebrook Ridge HOA clowns again. These ones look extra clueless. Did she call anyone? Of course not. Arlena can gossip from sunrise to midnight, but when danger rolls by in a whole suspicious SUV, suddenly she's mute. Funny enough, that small moment, it would matter a lot later. Meanwhile, Darian, calm, sharp-eyed, former SEAL who'd survived deserts, oceans, and idiots with guns, was just tightening the hinge on his gate at East Briarwood Estate. The morning felt annoyingly peaceful. No strange cars, no warnings, nothing that screamed, "Hey bro, your wife is about to get snatched by bargain bin fake cops." Inside, Liana was humming while cleaning the kitchen. The sound was soft, warm, the kind of peace Darian cherished after everything he'd lost during deployment. But when he walked back toward the house, something was off. The front door was cracked open, not wide, not dramatic, just wrong. He froze instantly. That SEAL instinct slammed awake like a loaded weapon. He stepped inside slowly. The living room looked untouched, the worst kind of untouched, the kind that hides a nightmare behind the stillness. Liana? Silence, thick, heavy, wrong. Then he saw it. A single sheet of paper sitting on the dining table like a threat wearing perfume. Typed, bold, cowardly. The Stonebrook Compliance Authority had taken his wife over unpaid HOA fines. Who kidnaps someone over fines? Who even thinks like that? Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe to Silent Divide Tales because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. Darian didn't waste a second. The moment the shock settled into something sharper, something colder, he was already moving. He scanned the doorway again, noticing the faint boot scuffs he'd missed earlier, the cheap cologne lingering in the air, the kind worn by men who think intimidation is a personality trait. He snatched the letter off the table and headed straight for the East Briarwood police substation. When he shoved through the doors, they swung so hard they nearly bounced back at him. He didn't sit. He didn't wait. He walked straight to the front desk and dropped the letter like a judge slamming down a verdict. "My wife has been taken," he said, voice tight but chillingly controlled. "This was left on my table. Read it." The desk sergeant skimmed it, exhaled, then had the audacity to lean back. "Sir, AOA disputes take time. Let's not jump to conclusions." Can you believe someone actually said that out loud? But then, the moment Darian walked out, that's when everything shifted. Outside, his heartbeat slowed into that cold, steady rhythm he'd used overseas, a mental switch flipping into something lethal. If the police couldn't help, he'd go to someone who definitely could. He pulled out his phone and tapped a number he kept buried deep. Turek Voss, former SEAL intelligence tech. The kind of man who could trace a ghost across concrete. The call barely rang once. "Darian, you only call when something's wrong." They took Liana, fake HOA clowns, calling themselves the Stonebrook Compliance Authority. "I need eyes." "Send me everything," Tarek said. No sympathy, no wasted words. That was how you knew it was serious. Darian stepped into his living room and forwarded doorbell footage, timestamps, even a grainy shot of the white SUV. As he waited, he paced the room, studying every overlooked detail. 45 seconds later, the first spike of suspense, his phone buzzed. "Got them," Tarek said. Street cams caught the SUV heading toward Hawthorne Strip. 3 people inside, no firearms, batons, tasers, and stupidity. Can you imagine thinking that's enough to kidnap a SEAL's wife? But then, Tarek's voice dropped. "Darian, one of the thermal signatures matches Liana's size inside the old Briarwood milling plant." Everything inside Darian went silent. "Send the coordinates," he said. Because now, the hunt had officially begun. Darian didn't bother with weapons. His training was the weapon. He grabbed his old tactical gloves, tightened them until the leather creaked, and stepped outside. Not because a locked door mattered, but because he refused to return without Liana. The drive toward Briarwood Divide was silent, focused, deadly. Every street lamp flickered across the cracked pavement like warning signs no one bothered to read. Tarek stayed on comms, voice steady in his ear. 3 bodies inside. 2 on the ground floor, 1 pacing the upper walkway. Liana's heat signature is stationary. Far back room on the right. Stationary. That word punched harder than any fist. But then, Darian's heartbeat steadied again. He'd been in worse situations and walked out alive. He parked a block away, killed the lights, and moved. His boots barely whispered against the pavement. Shadows swallowed him whole. The old Briarwood milling plant stood ahead, windows shattered, walls bent with rust. The perfect place for cowards pretending to be powerful. He reached a crooked side door hanging like a bad secret. Not reinforced, not locked. Amateur hour. He pushed it open an inch. Voices spilled out. She'll cooperate soon, they always do. Boss said her husband's soft. Navy paycheck can cover the fines. Soft? Can you believe they actually said that with their whole chest? But then, they made their worst mistake. They turned their backs. Darian slipped into the hallway, muscles loose but ready. The first enforcer stepped out, baton dangling lazily. Darian grabbed, twisted, dropped him to the floor without a breath of sound. 1 down. The second loser was leaning over a table, scrolling his phone like he was on lunch break. Darian hooked his arm, swept his legs, and pressed him into unconsciousness before the man even realized he was airborne. 2 down. Upper walkway. Last signature, Tarek whispered. Darian climbed the metal stairs, steps measured like heartbeats. At the top stood Chief Marshal Reddick, self-appointed king of fake authority, pacing with a stun baton and muttering threats like they were affirmations. He turned, froze. How did you get in here? This place isn't even on maps. Darian stepped forward, voice flat. You left a trail a child could follow. Reddick's fear flickered, then arrogance crawled back onto his face. You really came alone? No gun? No backup? Man, you're dumber than your wife looks scared. Can you believe this raccoon-eyed clown actually said that? But then, the fight ended before it even started. 3 strikes, a lift, a throw. Reddick hit the railing and folded like cheap laundry. Darian was already moving toward the back room. Nothing alive was stopping him now. The hallway leading to Liana stretched ahead, long, dim, humming with the faint electrical buzz of old machinery. Darian moved fast but never reckless, checking every corner even though all 3 enforcers were already unconscious. A warrior never assumed the fight was over just because the idiots were asleep. The final door sat crooked on rusted hinges. Its padlock snapped like someone had tried to intimidate it and failed. Darian pushed it open. Liana sat on a thin mattress, wrists tied loosely with plastic restraints. Tired, shaken, but not broken. Not even close. Her head lifted, eyes adjusting to the silhouette in the doorway. When she recognized him, her breath hitched. Darian. He crossed the room in 2 strides, pulling her into his arms, holding her like she was something sacred, because she was. For a moment, every ounce of terror she'd held inside melted. I'm here, he murmured. You're safe. She leaned into him, steadying herself. How did you find this place? He exhaled. Your captors weren't nearly as smart as they thought. He freed her wrists, helped her stand, and guided her down the hallway. Each step put distance between her and the fear those fools tried to plant in her. But Liana wasn't fragile. She was fire. Dimmed for a moment, but nowhere near extinguished. Near the entrance, Chief Marshal Reddick groaned on the floor like a man waking up from the world's worst nap. You think this ends with you? He rasped. You'll regret touching us. We enforce what this community needs. Darian turned, eyes cold and absolute. No, you enforce what cowards hide behind. Reddick tried to stand. Darian stepped closer, voice calm enough to terrify him. Stay down. That's the smartest choice you'll make today. Outside, fresh night air washed over them. Liana held on to him, breathing steadier with every step. Darian dialed the number he already knew by heart. Police dispatch. This is Darian Cole. I've subdued 3 suspects for kidnapping, impersonating officers, and unlawful detention. They're alive, but they won't be getting up anytime soon. This time, the response was immediate. Real officers arrived within minutes. Flashing lights painted the gravel blue and red as the fake enforcers were dragged out, bruised, silent, humiliated. Evidence piled fast. Fake badges, tasers, ledgers, documents, the ransom letter. And suddenly the police looked at Darian very differently, respectfully. Liana pressed closer to him, relief softening her shoulders. In that moment, under those flashing lights, one truth settled over both of them. Nobody was ever taking her again. Not while Darian lived. Not while he breathed. Their storm had passed, and they had won. If you believe every family deserves safety and every coward eventually gets exposed, hit that subscribe button and stay locked in with Silent Divide Tales, where justice always gets the final word.